Hi, my name is Steve Gideon. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at the largest entrepreneurship program in the world, Ryerson University. I'm actually on my third career. My first career was as an engineer. I have a PhD from MIT, and I had 15 years working with most of the largest Canadian manufacturers that you may have ever heard of, planes, trains, automobiles, and things like that. My second career, after I discovered that nobody cares about technology, was as a venture capitalist and an entrepreneur. So I've been CEO of 15 companies. The largest was publicly traded on the TSE, NASDAQ, and London Stock Exchange with 26 subsidiaries in 15 countries. The largest VC firm was a $100 million US corporate VC program based out of California. I'm now on my third career as a professor of entrepreneurship. I mentioned it's the largest entrepreneurship program in the world, and so as an introduction to this MOOC, I'm going to give you some cognitive structures and framework around entrepreneurship. I'm going to talk a little bit about how one goes about designing an entrepreneurship program. And it starts on the left with the student and the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that the student has. And then as it moves from the left to the right, as a result of education, you learn things. You learn knowledge, skills, and attitude. So first thing to talk about is what is entrepreneurship. I view entrepreneurship first and foremost as looking at what is and seeing what can be or what ought to be. And so entrepreneurs have a different relationship with reality. They don't just go through blindly, looking at their phone and ignoring things. They're open to the world around them, and they're very curious about the world around them. And they're always looking at how to improve things. But secondly, entrepreneurs know that I can make it happen. I can bring about the change that I want to have in the world, and I take action to make that happen. So that means that entrepreneurship is not really just a business discipline. This is something that's fundamental to the human spirit. This is a different way of seeing, a different way of thinking, a different way of acting. And it can be applied to 4 different domains. It can certainly be applied to a startup, and that's what most people think about entrepreneurship. But you can also be entrepreneurial inside a company, to start up a new product line or a new service or a new international distribution channel, or to do things in an entrepreneurial way, and this is called entrepreneurship. The third major area is social entrepreneurship, also known as change making. Wouldn't the world be a better place if women could drive or vote or own property? And then to see that positive change and to take action to make that happen. Very important aspect of entrepreneurship. And then the fourth area is around personal empowerment, to look at yourself in an entrepreneurial way and say, how can I be a better human being? How can I be entrepreneurial towards my own character? How can I, Steve Gideon, be a better son, a better father, a better professor, a better student, a better speaker, a better singer, whatever it is that I'm trying to improve in my character. So when I'm talking about entrepreneurship, I'm talking about this more holistic framework which goes beyond just a business discipline. And so here's an example of a definition that I've published, and I give you some references here. But this really gives you a guide to when we talk about entrepreneurship, and it's not just about starting up a business, why are we still talking about entrepreneurship? And this is why, that it's something much broader than just how do I start up a business. Question then comes up, how do you teach this stuff? And this is probably the single biggest question that everybody asked me when I became a professor was, can you teach people entrepreneurship? And I originally thought that was a very weird question, because when I taught engineering, nobody said, can you teach engineering? And what I realized was that people were really asking, can you teach people how to be curious? Can you teach people how to be resourceful? Can you teach people how to have grit and perseverance and tenacity and resiliency and to be in charge of your life? And the answer to that question was no. I can't teach that. You can learn it, but I can't teach it. I can't beat you over the head with a textbook and make you more resilient. You have to become more resilient through the educational process. So this really gets down to the difference between teaching and learning. That in a teacher-centric teaching framework, the teacher knows all the answers, and the answer is always at the back of the book. But if you're going to start up a women's clothing company, and your question is, oh, Professor Gideon, what should be the price of a dirndl? I don't know. I don't wear dirndls. Why would you ask me what the answer to that question is? But I can provide a learning environment within which you discover what an appropriate price for a dirndl would be. You know, are you selling them to tourists in Munich during Oktoberfest and they're made out of plastic? Are they high-end dirndls sold through Tracht stores in downtown München? And through trial and error and experimentation based on the scientific method, you can figure out what the appropriate price of a dirndl is, and I'm a partner with you on that learning journey. And so the teacher-centric teaching method is the teacher knows everything, and the appropriate technique is lectures and exams and tests and theory, also known as the sage on the stage, kind of what I'm doing now. I don't do a lot of lecturing in my classes. Very often when I do lecturing, I do it through some kind of a video like this, because I'd rather save that face-to-face time for student-centric learning, where the student brings the questions that the student has, and I provide coaching. I'm more the guide from the side, so that I'm a partner in the learning journey, helping you figure out what the price of a dirndl is, because I don't actually care what the price of a dirndl is. I care that you're following an appropriate method by which you discover these things. So in this program that you're in, it's very hard for the professors to just tell you how to be an entrepreneur. You have to kind of figure that out on your own, and what we can provide as professors is cognitive frameworks, ways of thinking about things, and ways to guide you through your own learning journey. So, how do you do this? The best pedagogical technique for you learning entrepreneurship is called experiential learning, and it's kind of like learning how to play the guitar. So your professor can teach you scales in music theory, but at the end of the day, you gotta play the guitar. You can't just read a book about playing the guitar. You can't just go to concerts and watch other people play the guitar. You gotta play the guitar. And you gotta play it, and you gotta make mistakes. And you gotta play it till your fingers bleed. And then you gotta find other people to share your music with and jam with, and you make mistakes together. But if there's a song in your heart and you're sharing this with other people, then this is how you become a great musician. So hopefully what we can do for you in this program is to stimulate your interest and provide a good, safe learning environment, and then let you jam. Turn it up to 11, make all the noise you want, go break something. So that's the appropriate pedagogical technique by which you can learn entrepreneurship, because I can't just teach it to you. So what are we trying to teach, or what are you trying to learn? There's three major areas. There's knowledge, the head. There's skills and competencies, the hand. And there's attitudes, values, and beliefs, the heart. So on the knowledge side of things, again, it's like, musical scales, you got to practice, and of course there's the passion and the inspiration on the heart side. So some of the kinds of knowledge that we can try to impart to you are things like entrepreneurship theories, and in particular, entrepreneurship processes and methods. Some of the key entrepreneurial skills are things like being alert, how to be open to discovering new opportunities, how to go about finding these opportunities, how to be resourceful, how to bootstrap, how to plan when the world is chaotic and things change all the time. How do you plan under conditions of extreme uncertainty, and how do you be adaptable and agile and things like that. So some good books that you might want to consider. This is some of the books that I have in one of my required courses back at Ryerson University. This first book, Value Proposition Design by Osterwalder, is a really good foundational book. It's cheap. It builds on top of the business model canvas, also by Osterwalder. Lots of pretty pictures. It's you can read it on a plane ride. It's an easy book to read. I strongly recommend you buy and follow this book. The second one is specifically around design thinking. It's very much in harmony with the Value Proposition Design book, but it comes at it from a design thinking point of view, and so a lot of the terminology is a little bit different. But this particular one here I'm recommending, Designing for Growth, is, in my opinion, the best one on the market today as of 2018. A couple years ago, I would have picked a different book, but this is the best one that I know of today. There's a new one out called The 100 Steps to Startup by Sean Wise, who's based out of Ryerson University. It's 100 steps that you can step through on your journey, and it provides a good cognitive framework by which you kind of know what you're going to do next, and whether you've done with this one and you can check it off and move on, or whether you're like, yeah, I did that step, but I may need to go back again, but at least I knew that I had to go through that step to get to the next one. So that's a good cognitive framework for you. Bill Ouellette has a great book called Disciplined Entrepreneurship. Bill's based out of MIT, my alma mater. I really like Bill. His particular book focuses on technologies where you have to make a big bet. So for example, if you're building a nuclear power plant, you can't just build a prototype and then go out and poison the world. Like you gotta really, really think through before you spend that $150 million to build your nuclear power plant or whatever other thing. And so disciplined entrepreneurship is a really methodical, process-oriented technique primarily for high value, like technology-based startups. So if you're doing one of those, very strongly recommend that book for you. Ash Maurya has a good book on running lean, and here's some other ones here that I suggest that are good books from a knowledge point of view. So if you're going to get a degree in entrepreneurship, you should know all the stuff in these books. Some of it you can get online, but spend the money, get these books. Easy to get knowledge. On the skill side of things, some of the specific good skills that you should learn through this program include being alert. Practice your alertness skills. Practice getting out there in the world, engaging with people, and being proactively discovering opportunities. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And here's a list of some of the other good skills you should be learning during this program. Finally, good values is an important one. The very first value is get out of the building. The knowledge that you need is not inside your own head. Even if you think you're selling to people exactly like you, well, good luck. There's nobody else out there that's exactly like you. You learn things about people by being human-centric and focused on them. I like to sometimes use the example that imagine you want to marry somebody. Don't just go walking up to every woman you've ever met and ask her to marry you. Like, take the time to know their name. Take the time to focus on, like, do you like me? Are we of the similar age? Do we have similar religious backgrounds? Do we share values? Do you want to have kids? What's your name again? All that kind of stuff before you start asking somebody to marry them. So take the time to get to really deeply understand your customers. Get out of the building. Be proactive. Second one is build something. Don't just live your life inside your own head and convince yourself that your plans are wonderful. Bring that idea into physical reality through a prototype, and then show that prototype to the person and say, would you like something like this? Don't just talk about selling a dirndl. Make a dirndl, show it to somebody and say, do you like it? Do you like green? Do you like that kind of green? Do you like this kind of a ribbon? Or I don't know anything about dirndls. But make something and share that with other people. The third one is build connections. Entrepreneurship is a team sport. Don't do this on your own. Don't do this just with your own team. Find other organizations that you partner with. Very important part of success. Be professional, make sure that you use high quality materials whenever you create something, and finally leverage theory. You don't need to have a degree in entrepreneurship to start something up, but the world is littered with the carnage of the dead companies where people mortgaged their houses and built a product and spent a lot of money, and then nobody wanted their product. So leverage some of the theories and these cognitive frameworks that we're going to be sharing with you throughout this program. So that's probably a good place to stop this particular video, and we'll start with the next one with how to spot an opportunity.